From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Thursday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. A couple guests joining us today. First up, one Andrew Kennedy, a SEC Network analyst and personality now. Obviously, Andy Kennedy, former basketball coach, joining us here on the show. Jeffrey makes his weekly appearance as well. So guest-heavy show tonight, or today, sorry, not so much tonight. Bit Funky's 5:30 for that one. Come hang out. Let's shoot the crowd. We'll talk about whatever you want us to talk about. We'll have a good time there as well. Plenty of specials, plenty of different things to entertain you there at Funky's at 5:30. Should also know more today. I think we're going to get this done. If you're going to be in Nashville next Friday night, we'll all get together for Ole Miss and Butler. The basketball game starting at 7 o'clock. Again, I should hear back today, definitely by tomorrow, and we'll get that set if you're in Nashville and want to join myself next week.
You're going to buy drinks for everyone there, right?
Completely open bar. Yeah, completely
Gotcha.
Open bar. It is open and is going to allow them to pay for it.
Oh,
so
okay.
It is an open bar. It is completely open next week. That's the way we're going to do this. No, I don't think we're gonna break the bank on this thing. We're going to have a good time nonetheless. It'll be fine. So for those of you in town, we'd love to have you join us. Also got a couple, at least one, maybe two different live shows to announce here soon in other parts. Everybody always tells us, why don't you guys move around a little bit? So we're looking at that potentially coming up here in the next couple months. But
I know of one.
You don't know the other one yet. I hadn't told you. We got a possibility. Working on it. I'll fill you in.
See, this is how this works on this here Potato Log podcast. Sometimes I don't even know what the hell we're doing.
No, not really. There's so much show prep involved. I didn't have time to get to the other things that we might hit on.
I lined up a guest.
You did. I did too. I lined up Jeffrey.
I know. I said I lined up a guest. Right. I wasn't trying to take complete.
I texted Jeffrey and said, call when ready, and that's what we did. So we've taped him. As of this moment, we have not taped Andy, but we'll get to him, and you'll hear it in the early part of the show. But anyway, Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Go by, get your bottomless refills, because you buy the Stadium Cup, and every time you pass by a Blue Sky location in Mississippi, only 49 cents to fill that bad boy back up. So great deal there. Among the great deals, you get the Speed Pass Plus app to save money at the pump. You rack up the points. You don't have to worry about identity theft or anything like that. And then as Thanksgiving is approaching, they'll smoke your turkey for you as well. We'll give you more details on that. But get ready. That can take a huge part of your day, part of the hassle out of Thanksgiving for you for smoking that turkey there at Blue Sky in the Oxford Exxon. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford studio.
We are. Clark Ford is in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900 is the number. Call the number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what new Ford you're looking for. And he'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's that simple. It's right to the bottom line. There's no haggling, no hassle. You get to decide at that point just how complicated you want things to be, because you certainly, it's your right if you want. You can take that quote and shop it around. You can use it as a baseline. You're going to find out that it was the baseline, because Corey gets right to the bottom line. He doesn't try to swindle you. He wants the purchase to be as efficient as possible because it lets him move on to the next purchase. You know how that works. It's business. So once you go back to Corey and start finalizing your deal, tell him that you heard about Clark Ford on this podcast or any of our family of podcasts, and you'll save $500 off the already great bottom line at Clark Ford and Amory, 662-257-1900.
I don't really know where I thought about this, but I kind of did. Ole Miss A&M 11 o'clock on Saturday. We've not discussed that game much at all this week here on the show. I'll have some content later on the site. A&M historically has been a very bad football team at home relative to everybody else in winning football games.
Yes.
They've got a good environment. They've got the whole. I don't think it shakes anymore. The press box used to shake. All the little gimmicks things they're big on. Why do you think that is? I mean, is it just because Frankly, is it because we always overrate them because of the size of the school and the money involved? And everybody kind of puts A&M in this category that, frankly, their on-field results don't justify. They're a very average football team, whether in the SEC, the Big 12. Jimbo Fisher may fix it. I have no idea. They're paying him a brink truck full of money to do so. But no matter what's really been their situation, they've always been fair to middling when Jonathan Manziel's not under center. And even then, they don't win the West.
No, they haven't even thought about winning the West. I don't know. It's a good question. I've seen the numbers. The numbers are kind of
bad.
They're kind of shocking.
They're as bad as anybody in the league.
When you look at them, we talked about it in the preseason. And I don't know what it is about this game this week. There's not a lot of buzz. I think it's people are still kind of getting over the South Carolina loss, the way that game was lost. When you lose a game like the one they lost to Auburn, I think it's kind of easy for a fan base to get over it because you got beat. You just got beat.
So both teams are dealing with really the same thing because A&M goes to Auburn and has the game won, and then the Tigers steal it late. I mean, they get beat by an Auburn team that has Jarrett Stidham as quarterback, and Auburn rushes for 19 yards.
19 yards. You dominate the game and then lose. So, both teams sort of take the field probably still with one eye on the rearview mirror a little bit.
They have not been home in a while. A little bit of a scheduling quirk for A&M this season. I'm assuming this is right, judging by the schedule on ESPN.com. They have not been home since October the 6th. They've had three straight road games and a bye week since they have been home.
Wow.
They have not been at home since they beat Kentucky 20-14 in overtime back in the early part of October. Since then, they went to Columbia, South Carolina, won 26-23. If this is correct, again, I have no idea.
That is correct. The game was there.
Then they had back-to-back road games after that at Mississippi State and Auburn, losing both of them. So they are riding a 2-game losing streak. They have looked pretty average since that Kentucky game. And even then, looked pretty average because Kentucky couldn't move the ball and A&M still couldn't score enough to put that thing away, needing a little bit of late-game heroics there as well. So they're licking their wounds, and it's still very much a honeymoon period. They're recruiting well, but some of the luster is off what they thought early when they got nipped by Clemson and thought it might be a remarkable season. It's not that.
Yeah, I've entered my picks all but one game, and the Ole Miss game I've made a pick. I don't feel great about it. It was hard because I don't have any feel for this game at all.
It's a weird line. There's no feel.
Like, I had a feel for South Carolina. I don't mean this to brag at all, but I had a feel for that game. You knew they would get yards and points because they are an average offense, and Ole Miss is not an average defense. And you knew they'd kind of be ready to play and all that stuff. And I picked Carolina by 4, and they won by 4. And it wasn't. I don't mean it like that. I just mean I had a feel for it. I have no feel for this.
A&M really stops the run. They try to pound it down your throat. Kellen Mond is inconsistent at best.
He is. I looked up their numbers yesterday when I was trying to make a pick. Now they get their share on the ground, and they get their share through the air. Believe it or not, they get explosive plays.
They say somehow Kellen Mond threw for 430 yards against Clemson.
They get explosive plays, and Ole Miss gives up explosive plays.
But now 220 against Auburn, 232 against Mississippi State. Did get 353 against South Carolina, 226 against Kentucky. The abomination, and they won the game. Mond only threw for 201 yards against Arkansas. And they didn't get some crazy rushing effort. I mean, the Williams kid got 152. It was a good day. But it wasn't like he went for 320 and they didn't have to throw it.
No, and that was one of those games that we thought Arkansas might be showing signs of life.
Yeah, they played really spirited early in that game at Jerry World.
After giving up the kickoff for the touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm taking A&M and laying the 12. I don't feel good about it. I can't. I've watched Ole Miss defensively, and I can't justify the other team putting up a small number. Does that make sense? I mean, everybody gets 500 yards. Literally, Ole Miss is giving up 499.1 yards per game through 9 games. They're giving up 500 yards a game. They're going to give up 500 yards to A&M, which translates to 30-some-odd or more points. And I don't know that Ole Miss can keep doing this. Here, go score 40-something, and maybe that'll be enough. It's why I've pushed back a little this week on the Longo stuff. To win the game, you have to score 51 points. That's not particularly fair.
Look, A&M's probably going to win one of these next two. But they're at 5 wins. They haven't gotten bowl eligible yet. And their remaining schedule is really funky. They're going to beat UAB, but the Blazers are a pretty good football team right now.
Yeah, but they'll beat them.
They'll beat them, and then LSU to close.
And I don't know about LSU.
I think this is the game to avoid 6-6 and at least make next week sort of interesting from a pressure standpoint on them.
Yeah, well, no, if you're A&M, this is a must-win game. You screw this up, and you're 6-6, and people are going, eh.
Such the swing couple weeks here because you could win a couple, and then, you could beat LSU. And
You could. It's unlikely.
it's at home. Last 3 are all at home.
Yeah. It's, I think they beat Ole Miss, but I don't know. Every time I think, and I've done this for 2 years now, every time I think, well, that loss, that's going to be the one. They're going to roll a dud out this week. This is the week that they just don't show. Every time I think that, they show.
Ole Miss has not lost to A&M in College Station since the Aggies have joined the league. They won on the Shea Patterson game a couple years ago and then mauled them in 2014, the week after Alabama.
Yeah.
Because they had that strange scheduling quirk where A&M came 2 years in a row in 12 and 13, and then they got into a schedule after that. So Ole Miss 2-0 so far in College Station since the Aggies are in the league.
And Ole Miss would have beaten them in 12 and 13 if A&M had a mortal quarterback.
Yeah.
That dude just made plays those 2 nights, man. Just plays, one after the other.
You couldn't do anything. It was,
he just
the
made,
dangest thing I've ever seen.
He just won the games by himself. You rarely see a player just go win a game by himself. He did. Saw Cam Newton do it. Saw Manziel do it twice. I'm trying to think if any other game comes to mind. I saw Dexter McCluster beat Tennessee just all by himself.
Stephen Garcia did it to Bama back in the
Yeah. I'm trying to think games that I've covered. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few, but he did it.
Saw Rudy Johnson at Auburn win a couple of games just by himself. Just go beat the other team.
How you rate them? Carnell, Ronnie, and Rudy in order.
I'm in the minority. I think Ronnie Brown's the best of the group.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Cadillac's better than Rudy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But Ronnie Brown. Whew,
Why Ronnie over Cadillac?
bigger, every bit as fast, was as good of a big one-cut back as I've ever seen. Hit the hole, make a cut, punish you. And over the course of a game,
top end speed was still good enough.
yeah, and over the course of a game, if you're in the secondary, by the end of one of those games, you're yelling at your linebackers, you hit him. This hurts. I watch defensive backs by the end of a game try to tackle him in a way that wouldn't hurt.
They were tired of it.
Yeah, it hurts. When you're 190 and he's 230 and he's running as fast as you run and he hits you sort of head on, it's going to hurt.
28, 30 carries all of a sudden.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you're doing it 15 times.
I'm good.
Yeah, he's enough. And with Carnell, he might embarrass you because he was so shifty.
Yeah.
But, you know, hitting him didn't hurt the way hitting Ronnie hurt. And Rudy Johnson was just a bowling ball. But, you know, he was hit the hole, run over you. And he was better in the open field than he got credit for, but that's not what he did well.
No, he had one path. It was
His deal was, I will deliver the blow. He was as good pad level as I've seen.
Where'd he come from? It's a JUCO, right?
Yeah, in Kansas. Yeah.
It's all right.
But, like, you know, I remember covering a game, Auburn against Ole Miss, when Ole Miss had Deuce. And there was no question that McAllister was a better running back than Johnson. Johnson had a better offensive line probably. But, you know, Deuce was a much more explosive player.
Deuce actually had a pretty sneaky line when you look about it. I remember about Todd and Terrence and a lot of those guys.
And it might have just been that Cutcliffe never let him be the workhorse because they kept mixing in other guys.
He's hurt some.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things.
He had that punt return in that one game that I remember that I didn't think Auburn could overcome that, and somehow they did.
Ole Miss really struggled with Auburn there for a while, even when the teams were equal, or Ole Miss might have even been better some years. It just that was sort of their mental issue was Auburn for whatever reason.
Yeah, I covered some good.
I mean, the 0-2 when Eli doesn't run it in, I think it was 0-2. Yeah, it was 0-2 back over here.
Yeah.
Eli had the opening to run the ball in and then threw it.
Hell, the 0-1 game, which was the few days before 9/11.
I don't know that I remember this game.
It was Eli's sophomore year.
At
Auburn. And Ole Miss, if I recall correctly, and hell, I might not. So if y'all light me up on a message board, I'm admitting up front that my senility is kicking in. If I remember right, Auburn built a big lead, and Ole Miss kind of kept coming back and had an opportunity late.
I know nothing.
I remember Eli playing really well in the second half after I thought Ole Miss was super conservative in the first.
That was Eli's first ever SEC game. They got beat 27-21 by Auburn at Jordan-Hare.
That would have been my score guess. And I think it was 27-7 or 27-0 at one point.
Because, I mean, that was a season that goes off the rails so much because you're talking – they beat Murray State, and while it was just a FCS team or whatever, Eli, set the school or SEC record for most completed passes in a game. And I think it only got broken because a ball, bounced off Joe Gunn's helmet or something weird. And then they play Auburn close, have a shot, and then roll off. They beat Kentucky on the road, Arkansas State, Alabama, and LSU in order right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're sitting at 5-1 at that moment, and then they're just completely broken in the 7 overtime loss to Arkansas. Yep. They lose that one. They get a Georgia in a home game where they just don't play well. They end up getting beat 35-15, and then lay a complete egg against Mississippi State, no pun intended. They lose 36-28 to that 2 or 3 win State team.
Blew a lead late.
I don't even remember.
I do. I remember they blew a lead late, and then they had to make up their game against Vanderbilt.
They won it on a comeback.
They were way behind. Yeah.
They ended up winning by 11. They won 38-27.
I remember that day because I drove to Baton Rouge from Mobile because Auburn played LSU that day. And I got to the hotel in Baton Rouge, and that game was on. And when I turned it on, Vanderbilt was killing them. And then Ole Miss came back and won it.
It was a day game. I was there. There was no atmosphere at all because it was sort of just weird.
And it was cold.
Egg Bowl. It's late. It was
the coldest night I've ever had.
Ole Miss wins to get to 7-4 and then doesn't go to a bowl game because they took 6-5 Alabama against Iowa State, who Ole Miss had beaten. It was a big deal at the time.
That was the night that the wind was blowing off the Mississippi River in Baton Rouge, and I went down. I said, "Screw it, I can't do this anymore." I went down and bought an LSU blanket.
Did you really?
I did. Bought the thickest LSU blanket. I gave it away.
Did you give it away?
Uh-huh.
You didn't keep it?
No.
Okay. I don't think you and I have discussed this. I had this conversation with some other buddies of the day when I noticed this on the schedule. You know that Saints-Falcons played Thanksgiving night, the same exact time as the Egg Bowl?
Oh, God, you'll be insufferable.
Saints-Falcons in New Orleans the night of the Egg Bowl. They kick it 6:45 or 7:10 or something.
Bless my heart.
Yeah.
Well, I deserve it.
We get Egg Bowl. Yeah, I mean, you watch the World Series at games.
I've watched an NBA basketball game at an Ole Miss game.
You almost got into it with the Opelika woman that night, but y'all
I was cool. She was an Indians fan, but I was cool.
She was loud.
She
kept getting a little.
She was being obnoxious.
Yeah, she was right on the edge, if not over the edge.
She was pulling a Jim Acosta.
She wasn't quite Jim, but yeah, there was. I don't know that I want to go there.
I'm kidding. If anybody, since I brought it up, I'll give you my brief synopsis. That was
you got about 75 seconds.
Well, I don't even need that long. That was a bad press conference for everyone involved. It was bad for everyone involved.
No one was in the right.
The media was disrespectful.
I felt terrible for the little intern girl.
Yeah, she was the only person who I have no blame for. The media was disrespectful to the President of the United States. The President of the United States was unpresidential, and that poor intern is just trying to do her job. Bless her sweetheart.
I do feel like Acosta has been trying to get kicked out of the White House since it happened to Caitlin Collins. I think the only thing he was upset about when Caitlin Collins got kicked out is it wasn't him.
Probably.
There's been plenty of grandstanding.
And there's a lot of grandstanding in that room because, quite frankly, and I know people don't want to hear this, but we're in the media, and I can tell you this, the overwhelming majority of the people in that room are fundamentally opposed to the politics of the man that they are covering. And it is coming out in their work. Mm-hmm. That being said, the President of the United States was not presidential yesterday, and it turned what should be.
They know he has a burner that will turn on, and that accelerates.
And they know how to throw matches at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got booms yesterday.
If you have a president with no burner, I'm not saying they would be completely whatever, but it would minimize it a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the media went after Bush many times, but he doesn't have the hair trigger that
the combustible
that Donald Trump has, right? So.
Anyway, we're going to go to Andy in 1 second. Before we do that, I'll tell you about Master Cuts because Christmas is around the corner, and they want to keep your house looking up to par through the holiday season with a variety of Christmas decorations that will transform your home into a festive staple of the neighborhood, lighting and garland, inflatable characters that Neil loves. Whatever your vision may be, Master Cuts will work to set up a custom display unique to your home, and the best part is every decoration you pay for, you get to keep them. They'll either store them for you or you can store them yourself and put them up the next season when the time comes. So start that today. With Master Cuts, get a free quote by giving them a call at 662-607-7773.
The podcast is also brought to you by Dead Soxy. Dead Soxy is it's the best dress sock you'll ever wear. They stay soft, they stay on, they stay up. Check it out for yourself. They're premium socks made of bamboo that stay up. They keep your feet cool. They're fantastic. You don't have to spend your day pulling them back up. They look great. Go to their site, deadsoxy.com, deadsoxy.com. There's no risk. Buy a pair or 3 or 7, and if you don't like them, tell them. They'll send you your money back, and you can keep the socks. It's deadsoxy.com. Enter promo code Rebel Grove at checkout. It's 25% off. See for yourself. See if they stay soft. See if they're the best dress sock you've ever worn. I think you'll find that they are. The podcast is also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi, represents clients in 24 states, has advisors in 3 states. It was founded in 1997. Pinnacle Trust provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity and decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. Regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan. Cookie-cutter financial planners put you in a box. Pinnacle Trust builds one just for you. To learn more about Pinnacle Trust, go to pintrust.com. That's PINN trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast, and you'll get 10% off your first year's fee. And the podcast is brought to you by the Westin Jackson. Restore serenity to your soul. Visit Soul Spa, the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. Indulge in personalized massages, signature facials, soothing body treatments, and much more on their extensive spa list. Escape from the everyday and rejuvenate yourself in the luxury spa today, and then check out Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro. Sip on a craft cocktail or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships, so gather at Estelle tonight.
Andy Kennedy, now on the Oxford Exxon podcast.
Andy Kennedy joins us here on the program. Andy, how are you?
I'm great, Neil. You?
I'm good. Good. It's getting cold, getting basketball season, which I'm sure for you this feels kind of. I'm curious because you're starting a new gig. I know you covered you called the Auburn game the other night. My friend Jay Tate covers Auburn for Rivals. We've been friends forever. We do a podcast together. He said he talked to you for a little while. Jay wanted to apologize, by the way. He said that after he talked to you for a while, referring to you as Andy, he did that journalism faux pas thing where you said, hey, I got to go to work. And he was like, yeah, see you, coach. And he was like, he beat himself up the whole game for calling you coach. So I was letting you know that he felt bad.
No, I think coach is an easy moniker. I still do it, especially I'm not great with names, which does not translate well to my new gig. I've got to learn names a little better. But I'm big into nicknames, and some of those you can't repeat on air, especially on the Worldwide Leader. So I refer to most everybody as coach. I may refer to you as coach throughout our talk here.
I've coached a little league team before, so that's I've been called coach.
Kind of been a coach and some coach, spiritual mentor, one of those.
Yeah, I've heard about those. They do retreats and stuff. All right, I'm curious for you when you're getting ready to do this. I mean, you've been coaching basketball for, God, what, 30 years?
23 years.
Yeah,
23 years.
And so now
23 years at the collegiate level. It's the first time in 23 years I hadn't been a part of a team from a coaching standpoint. So when you say that, 23 years, I mean that kind of I didn't really think about it until you say it, and you're like, well, that's a long time.
So now you're not coaching; you're doing something. It's around basketball, and it's something but it's different. Or do you get nervous like the other night before you started? You went on the air with the Auburn game, or does it already feel natural to you? People say that this is a natural thing, and like Calipari raved about you. I think you did the Kentucky blue-white thing, which probably had 55,000 people at it.
Yeah, not quite, but close.
I mean, everybody says you're a natural at it, but inside yourself, are you nervous calling basketball games, or is this just come easy?
I remember as a player, let me go back to when I played. I remember as a player, I always had nervous energy before the game, always. I mean, I couldn't hardly eat, and I was just, it was that anxious anticipation that we all feel from time to time. And I always felt that regardless of the game, whether it was, whether we were playing in the NCAA tournament or the first game of the year, you always had this nervous anticipation, which I think was good because it kept you on edge. And then as a coach, it's a different type of feeling, but you're just constantly, and as an assistant, it's different than a head coach, obviously, because as a head coach, you're just thinking, you want to make sure your team is prepared, that you've covered everything, and you want to be able to give them the information in real time as the game is evolving, to making adjustments and all the things that come with that, and do it in a way that they can connect with and then, and put into the game. Well, as an analyst, now this TV thing is new to me, and you've done games, you understand this. It's more than just sitting there talking about the game. There's the TV aspect of it. There's a lot going on behind the scenes as it relates to putting on the production. So I don't get nervous about the game. I've done this so long. I've seen the game. I'm not worried about the players in the game or what is transpiring or my ability to see it. But you are aware of the TV aspect, and as a result, you want to make sure that you're on top of your TV game. And for me being so new to this, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right things from a TV production standpoint.
You know all these guys. You've coached against them. You've been in meetings with them and all that stuff. I mean, you guys go way back. But now that you're not an opponent, you're an analyst. When you sit down with the John Calipari or you sit down with the Bruce Pearl, are the conversations different, or are they the same as they always have been?
Well, there's certainly a tie that binds as it relates to being a coach. And for me being so newly out of it, I was in those coaching rooms with these guys for a long time, and we've obviously competed, and, both in recruiting as well as during the actual game. The one thing that I have noticed, and I think it'll really become apparent as the season progresses, is this year I've always kind of been a shrink. I need a shrink. I am a shrink. We all have that, where you get with somebody and they want to tell you your problems, and there's people you got to get with and be like, hey man, can you believe this is going on? Well, in coaching, I think what has been great for me to see is the access that they've given me. It's been good for I'm trying to use it as almost like a continuing education year as well, going to other people's practices. I mean, you think about it. If you coach a team for 23 years, the only practices that you're going to are your own.
Yeah.
You don't go to anybody else's practice. The opponent is not inviting you in to watch them practice. So it's been great for me to see different guys from Calipari to Bruce Pearl to Ben Howland to Rick Barnes, and I went and even saw some people outside of our league from an ESPN standpoint. Chris Mack at Louisville, who I've got great respect for. So it's been it's been really good for me, just to see how people do it. It confirms some things that we were doing when I was coaching, but it also gives you new ideas and new ways to approach things. And everybody has a different approach, as you can imagine. But when I talk to the coaches, everybody wants to get your opinion. Hey, what'd you see? And what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Are we any good? Especially early in the year, because you hadn't played anybody until last Tuesday, so you don't really have a gauge on how good you are. And then they also, I think, are going to use me to be a little bit of a psychologist in that they're going to vent as only coaches can do to other coaches. So it's been good so far. Again, it's as a new gig. It's a completely different feeling. This is the first year in the history of college basketball, and I think it was a great idea that the start date was earlier. It started this Tuesday. Typically, the start date for college basketball would be tomorrow, Friday.
Which was always so stupid.
Yes, exactly. And it took a few years for them to figure it out. Said, man, why are we competing with, we're in the stretch run of college football. Why are we messing with that? Let's give them their own start date. And I think, especially with some of the marquee games that transpired on Tuesday, I think it was a very good idea, and I think it's been very well received. But, it is early, and there's a lot going on. So both as a coach and now as an analyst, you're still trying to figure things out.
Andy, it's Chase. I know you're just getting started and it's so early, but do you anticipate this giving you even more of a bug to get back into it, or you think that you're going to really enjoy, hey, I'm undefeated and I'm not out recruiting people every day of the year?
Chase, does Neal make you sit in the corner and be completely quiet? Where'd you come from?
Well,
holy cow, just out of nowhere. Did he team you in?
Neal is not the most technologically advanced guy in the world, so I kind of have to make sure the hamster stays on the wheel. So
you can relate to that, right?
Oh, I need one of those guys. What are you doing on Thursday? That's the one thing of everything that I miss. I miss support staff. Now I'm my own travel agent. I'm my own driver, which, as we all know, I have issues with that. I'm my own. I've got to be my. I got to get press passes. I got to feed myself. I got to check into the hotel. I'm not used to doing any of those things. When you're a head coach, we joke about this as head coach. When you're a head coach, you forget everything of any importance of coaching your team. You can't do anything. So now I come home and I'm in the house more than I've ever been in my life. And so now my wife is giving me these lists of things to do, and she forgets. I don't know how to do any of these things. I'm not the Mr. Fix-It guy, but now that I'm around, she thinks all of a sudden I've regain that ability. Back to your question, I don't know. I'm really, as humans, we're all speculative animals, and we want to speculate and, what's going to happen here, and we all want to have this detailed, intricate plan that never comes to fruition, by the way, as we all know. But we want to speculate. I'm trying, honestly, not to live in that world. I'm trying to enjoy some of the freedoms that this year has afforded me. I'm trying to appreciate the opportunity and look at the game in a different light without worrying about what's next. I have a multi-year deal with ESPN, which gives me a little bit of security as it relates to, hey, if I mess up one game, they're not going to kick me to the street tomorrow. I think they've made an investment as it relates to time and to seeing where this goes, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the platform they've given me, and I'm just trying to, enjoy it and see what happens next and let that happen naturally.
Yeah, have you had to go out and find a new wardrobe? I mean, because you're a coach, and all coaches are the same way. I mean, for the last 12 years, you just threw on a different polo or a different sweatshirt or whatever. And I know you got your Blue Delta jeans, but you've had to go out and find some different tops, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate you mentioning Blue Delta jeans. Those are my guys, and I know they've been good to you guys as well. Those are my guys, Nick and Josh. I'll be plugging them throughout the year. I know they're going to tell me not to do that in the year. They're going to say, man, you can't do that. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry, and I'll do it again. So I will be getting that in. And I should give you my new address because Cathead is not quite as prominent here in Birmingham as it was in Oxford. And I am not afraid, as you guys have seen, to mention our friends at Cathead. But
no, we're aware that you are not.
I I am an unemployed coach, so again, no freebies here. We got to work on a deal. I'll take it. I'll take it in product again, as you well know. So when we get done with this, I'll give you guys my address.
All right, that'll be good.
It is a little. Not really, not so much as that. I've got a bunch of suits, a bunch of ties, and we'll make that work. I may try I haven't done this yet, and what's the saying? It's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
I probably won't ask them permission, but I'll go tieless some. I'll see how that flows, because you don't see a lot of tieless analysts. But then I started thinking to myself, okay, Tony Bennett is probably not going to be an analyst anytime soon, but if he was available, I'm sure ESPN would want him on the air. He doesn't wear a lot of ties. There's a lot of guys that don't wear ties as coaches, so I wonder how that would work on the ESPN set. I may try it.
Did you keep the Christmas jacket so we can see that in December?
Oh, I'm definitely breaking that out. That's got to be a big game, though.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like UNC Asheville versus George Mason. Maybe they'll give me that one. I'll give you guys the heads up.
Yeah, let us know. Hey, you talked about the deal on Tuesday night, which was cool. I mean, they ran into some bad luck because it was up against the most watched midterms probably in half a century. But regardless, it was a great idea, and they had the 4 teams there, big teams, big coaches, all that stuff. Duke just destroyed Kentucky. I don't know how much of it you got to see or how much of it you've had a chance.
I got to see the second half because, our game, we had the 8 o'clock tip on the network, and by the time it was over and I got to where I could see the game, I did get to see the second half.
From what you saw, what happened to Kentucky? Was that just they ran into an NBA team, or what happened?
Yeah, I think they caught a team that's very good and that played very well. I did that game. You're talking about tough luck. I mean, my debut, I think, was friends and family viewing only. We were going head up Kentucky, Duke, and the midterms. I'm not sure a lot of people were tuning in to Auburn and South Alabama, no disrespect. And, but it'll give me an opportunity to use that material again because I'm not sure it was heard by many people. But same thing happened. Richie Riley, who I think is going to do a great job, and I know I can talk about South Alabama because your Mobile roots, Neil. Chase, I don't know if Neil has ever let you go to Mobile, but I think it's an underrated town. I love it. It was my first voyage into coaching way back when, so that was neat. Richie Riley is their new first-year head coach, who I think is going to do a great job, and I think they're going to do well in the Sun Belt. And Auburn hit them with 8 out of 10 out of the gate from 3, and it's like Tyson said, everybody's got to play until they get hit, and then you look up and it's a 40-point game, and it's hard to battle back. I think some of that must have happened to Kentucky out of the gate. They got hit. They're young guys, bright lights, first college game, and it just got away from them, and they were playing an opponent that just wouldn't let them back. I saw the second half. I still think Kentucky's going to be fine. I was one that – I did do their inter-squad game, as you referred to earlier, Neil, and I think they're talented. I think they've got a lot of really good pieces, and I think they're going to be right there in the thick of the conference race. And this year, like last and many previous, if you're battling for an SEC championship, that's going to put you in the upper tier of college basketball, which is going to give you an opportunity to make a run in March if everything falls well. And I think Kentucky's going to still be in that position. I just think, first game, they got hit in the mouth by a really good team, couldn't get off the mat. Cal is a master. He will use this as motivation moving forward. And, they will have no shortage of opportunities because, like always, they've scheduled very, very aggressively. And they'll be a team, again, that I think's got a chance to compete for an SEC championship. I was one that still believed the road to the SEC championship goes through Tennessee. Auburn is very, very good. Them and Tennessee co-shared the regular season title last year, but Tennessee returns all of those veterans and had an incredible year last year. I've seen them practice. I'm a big fan of Rick Barnes and what he does, and I still think they had to be the odds-on favorite in the preseason. I voted them 1 in the league, but I think Kentucky's going to certainly battle them tooth and nail throughout the course of the season.
Took a break in our talk with Andy to tell you to get a flu shot soon at G&M Pharmacy. Take care of your health there on South Lamar. Walk-ins are welcome. If you have a major medical provider, they will give you it for free, if not $25 for that flu shot to take care of yourself. And if you use them for all of your pharmaceutical needs, they deliver local in the Oxford area. That's G&M Pharmacy on South Lamar.
The podcast also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you've been thinking about that golf trip with the guys, or maybe that anniversary trip to Europe or to Napa or wherever it may be, get in touch with John Edwards before you try to do it by yourself. Also, be aware, spring break trip space is filling up on cruises and resorts in Florida and the Caribbean. And those guaranteed reserved tee times at golf courses in Scotland and Ireland for next summer, those are becoming more scarce by the day. So get in touch with John. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. John traveled the globe for 37 years before getting into the travel business. No one knows the extra attention that's needed more than he does to make a special trip one that creates a lifetime of unique memories. So here's what you do. You just call him. You give him some parameters, your time, when you want to go, how long you want to go, how much you're willing to spend, kind of what's your budget, and then let him take care of it. He'll give you some options. He'll give you some options that you would not find on your own. And you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. Now back to Andy Kennedy on the Oxford Exxon podcast. This I hadn't talked to you since the court deal in New York came down with the guilty verdicts. I know you talk to a lot of coaches, whether it's in person or you guys on text or whatever. How is that resonating inside the college basketball coaching community, what the verdicts are and some of the testimony that was heard in New York?
I was having this conversation. Before we came on, you and I were discussing, I had an opportunity to go to Bristol for the first time in my life, and that was an experience, and see the ESPN headquarters, and we had a big meeting up there a week or so ago, and I had an opportunity to speak with, or chat with Jay Billis about this very subject. And obviously, Jay's kind of the voice of college basketball, and he's very, very tied into a lot of things that you and I are not privy to. And he and I were talking about, and I share his sentiment, and that I'm a little shocked that it's not more newsworthy. I mean, there's things that come out that if they came out independently, then everybody would be like, wow, did you read that? Can you believe that?
Yeah.
But because of the way in which things have trickled out, and there hasn't really been a lot of consequences other than to players. There hasn't, guys sitting out games. There hasn't been a lot of consequences. So I don't think it's had the effect that I thought it would have. I think everybody's just kind of sitting and waiting to see what happens next. And again, in fairness to the NCAA, their hands have been tied because this is a federal investigation, and the feds, don't want anybody tinkering with anything until they get done with their investigation. I understand that, but I think now, I just read actually in the last 24 hours, the feds have given the NCAA the go-ahead to start the NCAA investigation on some of the information that came out in the first trial.
Yeah, the cuffs are off now.
Pardon?
The cuffs are off now. What do you think they'll do?
Well, I think that's what everybody's waiting to see. And it's one thing, and we've all lived in that world, that he said, she said. I don't think they're going to do anything to those people. But I think when you have, real evidence, wiretaps, paper trails, there's going to have to be consequences to pay. And I'm anxious to see what the NCAA does.
You were a big-time player. You coached for a long time. I can't believe I've never asked you this, and I'm curious. Are you opposed to the Olympic model at the college level? I mean, are you, if let's say Tua Tagovailoa, if a shoe company wants to pay him, or a car dealer wants to have him endorse their product while he's still playing college athletics, are you opposed to that? Do you think it's controllable? Would that get out of control, or is that maybe a partial solution to some of the black market issues that affect the sports now?
we've all heard different suggestions. Here's the way where I fall on it. I think one of the things that doesn't get brought up enough, and this is from a father of two daughters, and I know you have daughters, Neil. The Title IX aspect of this, federally funded universities, of which Ole Miss is one, and you get federal funds in a number of different areas, and so Title IX came about many moons ago for the right reasons, and now obviously there's had some other implications that were not thought out with some decline in different men's sports trying to get equality as it relates to opportunity, which I think we're all for. The football aspect of that is a bear, and I still don't think they figured out fully how to match that aspect, which is a whole other subject. I wish they would just eliminate the football, because there is no women's football. I wish they would just eliminate the football from the equation and then make it quid pro quo. But I think the best way to do it, I'm not a big fan of, I think this is the best time in the history of intercollegiate athletics to be a student athlete as it relates to all of the things that the universities can now afford them, which are so different than back when I played in the 80s. And I think that's great. And a lot of those resources are going back to kids and helping make their college environment and the opportunities that the college environment provides. It gives them an opportunity to experience some things that they didn't or weren't able to do so in the first hand. But I think it all should go into something, a trust, a fund that they have access to when their eligibility is done. I do think that they should be able to profit off of their image and off of their opportunity, like Tua, like you were talking about. Can you imagine all the people that would line up to want him a part of what they were representing? But I'm not sure that it would serve the best interest of the intercollegiate model for him to get that right now on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or contractually while he's playing. But I do think that who knows what's going to happen to him. I'm like you. He's a great example. I think he's the best player in college football, and he's going to go and be a superstar in the NFL. But who knows that? There's been a lot of great players in college football that didn't happen to. Can you imagine? And some of it is self-serving, obviously, or self-inflicted. But if Johnny Manziel would have had this opportunity to use his likeness while he was at A&M, I'm sure he could use it right now. Well, I think if they came up with a formula in which these guys could create monies in a fund and have access to it once their eligibility is done, I think that may be the way to solve some of these problems.
What has it been like this fall living in Alabama? You've experienced your kids are older. They haven't had to go to elementary school, for example, and pick a team, by God, or else. What's it been like this fall with Alabama, the maybe the best college football team ever? Can you get down the street without someone bringing it up?
No, you know this. I mean, you know Birmingham, you know Alabama. It's going to be a topic of conversation wherever you go. It's great. Birmingham's kind of our home away from home. We lived here longer than we'd lived any place prior to being in Oxford for 12 years. Both of our girls were born here. My oldest, Megan, is a senior at Sanford, and my youngest, Caitlin, is a freshman at Auburn. So we're kind of empty nesters, but yet they're close enough. It's been great to get back to Birmingham. As you guys both know, man, this is an underrated city, great city. Logistically, it makes a lot of sense for my new line of work. Yeah. And yeah, it's a cool place, man. And it's great. I got so much respect for Nick Saban and what he's been able to achieve. I think finally people are starting to talk in real time about, man, this dude is, I mean, we're watching something that we may never see again with the level of dominance. And now you throw, a Tua or maybe a once-in-a-lifetime offensive machine onto that team. Boy, it's been pretty exciting to watch.
Last thing, Ole Miss tips off on Saturday. I know you recruited some of those kids. It's probably going to feel a little weird to watch them on television or whatnot, but what do you think of that team this year? Kind of what's a realistic expectation for Ole Miss this season?
You know what I've seen? Obviously, the game's just started, so I haven't seen every team in the SEC play in real time. I've seen a bunch of them practice. Obviously, very familiar with the personnel. I know Kermit and his staff did a good job of when they got it, bringing in some pieces that that are going to be able to help the current team that we left them. But I saw at Media Day, Kermit brought TD, Terrence Davis, and then Bruce Stevens, two seniors, and I know that they're excited about, their last year in college basketball. I know, I spoke with TD. Obviously, we had recruited him, and he goes from a kid who plays very little as a freshman, learning the game, had a breakout sophomore year, was not as consistent as a junior as I'm sure he would have liked, and I anticipate him having an all-league breakout year. I think Kermit's voice, different way of doing things is going to be great for a TD, for a Brian, guys that I'm sure the change has energized. I've told you before, I think Kermit Davis is a home run hire for Ole Miss. He and I are friends. I think he's a great basketball coach. I think he'll figure out the way to play to put that team in the best position possible to be successful. I look forward to watching them, and when I watch them, I mean this sincerely, I am pulling for them because I have so much vested in that program and always will. So, I've got a lot of faults. Being petty, I hope, is not one of them. And, I am pulling for those guys because I know them personally, and I want to see them do well for them. The league is going to be very unforgiving again, top to bottom. Will it be as good as last year when there were 8 bids that came out of the SEC? The one thing that I'm excited about from a league standpoint, because we were on the other side of it, it used to be back in the day that, if you went 500 in a power league and you had some non-league wins that had merit, then you were in consideration for the NCAA tournament, which is the ultimate goal of everybody as they start. And we got away from that a little bit as a league because of some non-league scheduling issues, and as it related to the RPI, I'm glad they changed that as well, that you didn't get as much credit sometimes, going 9-9 or 10-8 in the SEC. I think those days are over. So I think if you can do enough in your non-league, and I don't know Ole Miss's non-league schedule off the top of my head well enough to know what their opportunities are, but I'm sure they'll be plentiful. And if you can take care of your non-league scheduling, when you get into league play, your goal is to try to get to that 500 mark, and anything in excess of that is going to put you in great position for postseason opportunities.
Yeah, you used the right word. I haven't used that word. I haven't even heard it, but that's the right word, unforgiving for the league. There's just no break.
Yeah.
There's no break. I mean, you have 2 bad weeks. 2 weeks where maybe somebody's banged up a little bit or your team just kind of goes through a funk. You can get your ass whipped for a couple of weeks. I mean, and you can play well in this league and get beat. I mean, there's just no – I'm sitting here looking at the list right now. There's no gimme. I mean, like just the teams that are picked at the bottom of the league. Arkansas has a lottery player. Georgia's got talent, and Crean's a good coach. And no one talks about A&M really, but I mean, he's done a good. They're not that far removed from a really deep tournament run, and Frank Martin's not far removed from a Final Four run. And I know Missouri lost Jonte Porter, but that's still a team that has pieces and has talent. There's just no walk through the park at any point.
No, there's no question. The league top to bottom is going to be very, very competitive, and that's what you want. And I'll tell you this, Neil, as a coach, if I was in my old job sitting here today and my team is opening up on Saturday as Ole Miss is, then, you'd be so consumed with that. And I don't even know who they play. Who do they play Saturday?
Western Michigan.
So you're going to be calling everybody that from the MAC to try to get some insight on Western Michigan. You've got limited tape. I know the guy at Western Michigan has been there 100 years, so you kind of have a feel on how they're going to play. But you're just going to be so locked into that. When you get home at night, you may turn on, television and watch some SEC teams just to kind of gauge, as we're talking about, just kind of gauge where the league is and who's good and who's bad. But I now have had an opportunity to look at it from a little different perspective, and I'm just looking at it overall college basketball. And last night, for instance, I'm a basketball Jones. I was watching TCU play Cal State Bakersville. Our old guy, Rod Barnes, who's done a great job at Bakersville. And Bakersville's good. Now, TCU, Jamie Dixon's done a great job at TCU, took over a program with not a lot of success, and he's got them back, got them in the tournament last year. And I think they're preseason, top 25 or whatever. And I'm watching the game, and and Cal State Bakersfield led the game for 35 minutes. TCU kind of overcame them at the end to win a close game, but everybody's good. My point is, college basketball is good. There are a lot of good teams out there. There are a lot of good players, and you got to be ready, and you got to be prepared early. And what the SEC did last year, they've got to do again this year. Just because they got 8 bids last year doesn't guarantee you're going to get 8 this year. You've got to take care of your non-league. You got to win these games that you need to win in November and December, so that when you get to January and you start knocking each other off, it doesn't damage any one team's RPI. Everybody has to be competitive, so that when you take an in-league loss, which is inevitable, and as you said, there's going to be weeks where you may lose 2 or 3 in a row. It's not a resume killer because the league has done its job in the non-league, and that's what's transpired in the last couple of seasons there.
Really appreciate the time. When's the first studio show in Charlotte?
I go, they won't do, obviously football right now is kind of dominating that studio. So
Sure.
They won't start getting into basketball. I think they did one on Tuesday for the kickoff of college basketball. Next weekend, I'm going to do a studio. I do a game in Lexington, which I look forward to. That place is special. Doesn't matter who you play there. You can play each other, and you're going to walk out there and be 20,000 people. It's
incredible.
Unique, it's pretty unique. So that's my next gig. I'll go do some Charlotte stuff, and then I'll call a game in Lexington next week.
Andy, thanks so much for the time. Really enjoyed catching up with you.
Hey, I appreciate it. Chase, hey, I appreciate you piping in. Neil gave you 43 seconds in this last 20 minutes.
Hey, but you sound clear as a bell, and we're all good, though. So,
that's all that's important.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget that cat head vodka. Appreciate you guys.
See you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks to Andy. Great catching up with him, as always. And we'll tell you the podcast is brought to you in part by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. So we're getting local underwriting and understands your market, a leader in condo financing and the float down option. So you can contact Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLowe, JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
The podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, look no further than Grenada Nissan. They have a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. It's just off Interstate 55 in Grenada, Mississippi. Ask about their lease deals as well. Gene and Sandy have been friends of this podcast, friends of our website for a long time. They're great people. They have a great product. Their service is fantastic. I've done business with them for more than a decade, and they're great. You can take my word for it. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. We're also brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX legacy realty agent. He's been in Oxford more than 4 decades. No one knows the residential and condo market in Oxford better than Harry. Go to his site, and he'll prove it to you. It's harryalexander.com. Click on the Properties and Neighborhoods tab, filter through by what you're looking for, and then send him an email, ha@harryalexander.com.
Podcast is also brought to you by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com/events. See all the things going on, including the Big Bad Art Show I've been telling you about. Started November 2nd, runs through December the 3rd at the Powerhouse. The Scrambled Art Bowl goes November 5th to November 26th at Uptown Coffee. You got Thacker Mountain Radio every Thursday night at 6 o'clock out in front of Off Square Books. The Jersey Boys coming to the Ford Center on November 9th. That's a 7:30 start, some Christmas open houses, and much, much more. So take advantage of that. See the full calendar of events at visitoxfordms.com. We'll jump right back into our interviews. Jeffrey Wright making his weekly appearance now on the Oxford Exxon podcast.
Jeffrey, welcome into the show. I did some radio in Memphis earlier in the week, as you were aware, because you were kind enough to come on and save me for a segment. Has now that he's coached a game, has Penny Mania calmed a little, or are we just throwing logs on the fire?
Oh yeah, we're just throwing logs in the fire, and I think it's only gonna get more intense, because I do think he's gonna get James Wiseman, and so when they get Wiseman, it's at this point, because then you're at that weird point where, so if you think back to like 2013 with Ole Miss in the recruiting class, you're at the point though where you sign the recruiting class before the team plays. And so then, if you think back between the excitement between, after they sign that big recruiting, the 2013 recruiting class from forward, will compound that, and then you get to watch the team play for the whole year. So he really will just have like nothing but free shots. come in about 2 weeks or so.
You mentioned James Wiseman. There's an ESPN story. I guess it's out in the last 24 hours. Maybe it's this morning. I haven't read it yet. Russell Johnson sent me an excerpt. It talks about Dawkins, the FBI, the runner for I guess for Nike. Or maybe it's Adidas. Hell, I can't keep up. Talks about how Dawkins didn't only have his eyes on current college players. He also planned to recruit many of the country's best high school prospects, including center James Wiseman of Memphis, the number one prospect in the 2019 ESPN 100. Dawkins recommended paying Wiseman $3,000 per month from October 2018 until October 2019, and then $4,000 per month from October 19 through April of 2020. Obviously, there's no proof yet that he got paid. We all know that the kid he's going to get paid. Everybody's getting paid. Does that change anything in Memphis, or do people in Memphis sort of look the other way on this and say, hey, of course they're all getting paid?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think, in fairness to the Memphis people, I don't think there's like this grand illusion that okay, well, we do it the right way.
Right.
Really, the only program that I've noticed doubling down on that recently has been Kentucky. And I guess because they feel invincible, because A, it lets them feel superior to Louisville because Louisville's so prominently featured in this. And then B, I mean, in fairness, Cal's name's not anywhere near this, and there's not really a lot of traces to Cal. But I haven't really noticed many schools doing the superiority thing other than really Kentucky.
Yeah, the only people that have doubled down is the NCAA itself. And yet,
well, no, you found out. You saw the report yesterday. The NCAA is now free to go probe through the trial findings.
Yeah, but they've got to do
get right on that.
They got to do their hair this week, and so they can't do it.
That's a good point.
This week.
Well, don't forget they got to clip the nails too. I don't know if you know that. They've been looking a little long.
Well, it has, and you got to get ready for Thanksgiving. And if you wait until the week,
God, you got family coming in, and I don't. Oh man, you got still haven't really been to the grocery yet. Like,
because if you wait until the week of, you're never going to get your turkey thawed. And so after that,
and then more importantly, I don't know, Neil, if you've ever been to the grocery store during the same time that everyone's going. Like, none of the stuff that you want's there.
Yeah, it's just a madhouse, and then. Really, after that, you have to start getting ready for, because when you're the NCAA, you're very politically correct, so you have to get ready for Hanukkah and Christmas and Kwanzaa and everything else, and before you know it, hell, it's February, and then you've got to get ready for the tournament, because everybody wants their bracket ready for the tournament and get in the pools and the office pool and stuff, and then before you know it, it's June, and I don't know. They'll get to it eventually. They'll get around to it, but it's going to be a little while.
I just know this. I've read a couple of corporate workbook or textbooks, and I just know that preparation is the number one key for success. And the truth is, Neil, I don't know if you know this, but that NCAA tournament, it is a big deal.
It is.
If we're not prepared for that thing to go off without a hitch, guess what? It's going to go off with hitches.
It's going to go off the rails. That's a logistic. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a logistical nightmare. And then you have to make sure, this is important too. This is very important. The people at like Dasani, they pay a lot of money for those cups. And sometimes crazy, like rebellious media like Parham here, they'll try to bring in their water bottle that says like Safeway on it or Kroger or
By the way, the water bottle that was provided in the media lunchroom. That's one of my favorite moves.
Yeah. He'll try to take that to his seat.
No. You got that backwards, Neil. You got that backwards. Because Dasani didn't pay enough money. Though they are offering Dasani water and Coca-Cola products exclusively in the workrooms.
Right.
If you are going to go out into the seating area, you must put it in an NCAA cup. It can't be bought and paid for.
Yeah. That is right. See, you see how easy it is to get this confused. You can't prepare enough.
God forbid.
Really.
Hold on. God forbid that in one of those arenas that they get it backwards too, and they think that the cups are just pouring water inside. Sometimes they'll offer the Powerade, the water from the Powerade jug, which of course is always labeled. But what if someone thinks in that room that you can only drink water from those cups or coffee, and then God forbid they go to the floor.
You're scaring me right now.
On the media seating, and they're carrying a Coca-Cola bottle.
I can't think about stuff like
Trademark.
that. I can't think about stuff like that. Please don't do that again.
How should I be feeling about this Dez Bryant thing?
I think it's a win-win.
Do you?
Me too.
Yeah. What is the Saints for me? Anytime I can get a contract where I feel like the player needs me more than I need the player, I'm all in on that. Like Dez Bryant wants to get another decent sized deal. If he's going to do that, he has to come in for the Saints and play well and not be a distraction.
But I mean, where has Dez Bryant been that he hasn't been a distraction? He's a complete.
He's only been in one place, and that one place is the most drama-filled organization in the history of professional sports.
I think Dez Bryant wants a title. I think he wants to win a championship. I don't think he's going to go into New Orleans and do the whole give me the damn ball stuff. I think it's – and also I don't think in that particular locker room you can pull that off. I think there is – when he was in Dallas, there was a leadership void because you went from Romo to a rookie. In New Orleans, there's a pecking order, and everyone knows it starts with number 9.
And let's also discuss for our brethren now in the Golden Triangle. It turns out that Dez might have had a point about Dak's passing.
He's regressed every single season.
Well, yeah, because his rookie season, they had the number 1 offensive line in the entire NFL.
Yeah,
they had Zeke Elliott. And then this is what I have been screaming about for multiple years, but everyone just tells me to shut up. But I'm right. They had the softest strength of schedule in the NFL that year. They had the number 32 schedule of 32.
You want a hot take?
And I would have played Romo. I said that the whole time.
Yep.
As soon as Romo came back healthy, I would have played him. That was a Super Bowl caliber team. Yep. I would have played Romo.
Here's my hot take. If Tony Romo doesn't get hurt that year in the preseason and he quarterbacks, they probably win a Super Bowl.
I mean, I agree. I think the problem is when we start at that point in his career, when we started doing the if Romo stays healthy, there's a reason why we were saying if Romo stays healthy.
Well, of course.
At that stage in his career, he couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, but letting him run in a preseason game and getting hit was so stupid.
Not great.
They're only one game back.
Not great.
Are we overlooking the Panthers at 6-2?
I mean, I'm not. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying.
I mean, nobody's really talking about them. The Saints are only a game up and still have to play them twice.
Right, but I mean, I thought last week you and I said that with the Panthers need to lose.
What do you mean?
Parham is so stressed out about this. He needed the Saints to lose by 3 touchdowns last week. He would have come back down. Instead, my man's got his hopes up.
I'm like looking at times for Wild Card Weekend right now. Like it's like okay, what's
Wild Card Weekend?
You never know. I mean, the Panthers win the division. We're in the Wild Card Weekend.
He's got his hopes up, and now he's just trying to bring it down. I'm
so mad at myself for liking this stupid team right now. Dude, I'm still broken from last year. I have not recovered. I don't want this. I don't like it.
The psychology of Parham and the Saints is hilarious to watch. He really needed them to get whipped by the Rams last week. It would have made him back to his normal self. He would have been balanced. His pH levels or whatnot would have been exactly where he wants them to be. Instead, the truth is, he's woolly on this team right now, and he's desperately trying to discover ways not to be.
Yeah, isn't fanship awesome? Yeah. I mean, the bigger thing that I'm struggling with is do we as a football watching community, do we owe Norv Turner an apology for the last decade?
Well, that's probably a little long in the tooth, but
why would you say that? Give me for the people out there. Give me the reason why.
So Norv Turner has got Cam honestly playing his best football of his career right now.
Yeah.
And
he's been the butt of jokes for a decade.
Yeah. Well, because he actually has been bad. Like the numbers have backed it up. Like he's had like 27th or worst ranked offenses in every statistic that mattered. But he did call plays for Troy Aikman with Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith. And so he's a genius. And Troy Aikman, anytime Troy Aikman's on TV, talks about how Norv Turner's the greatest mind he's ever been around in football. And so he kept getting jobs. And now this year, he has done a very, very good job with Cam. And, I mean, that defense is kind of pretty salty, although they did give up a bunch of garbage points last week.
They look like the best of the other teams.
Yeah.
They're really good.
I think there's some tiers right now developing. I mean, to me, this is why the NFL is way more interesting than college this year. I know everyone thinks that that's a hot take. No, this is not a hot take for those of you that like college football.
Factual.
Nothing to do with it. It's the fact that realistically, okay, let's go through the NFC. The Saints can win. The Rams can win. The Panthers can win.
Yeah.
The Vikings can still probably win. I mean,
Atlanta could get interesting.
I would say, exactly. I know they dug themselves a hole, but if I told you that Atlanta goes on a roll, because right now they look offensively awesome right now. Like, if they go on a roll, then realistically you're looking at 5 teams out of 6.
They could be a very scary 6 seed in this tournament.
Exactly. And so the only division that I think that doesn't have a team that can make it to the Super Bowl is probably the East.
Yeah,
but then if I also told you that, hey, the Eagles started to figure it out, are any of you telling me that I'm high?
No, and I'll even go one further. Now, don't get me wrong. The odds of this are less than 5%, but the Bears are good enough defensively that if they had a playoff game where Trubisky made a couple of plays, playoff games get that could get squirrely for somebody.
Especially if you have a defense. Yeah, so
and their defense is really good. I mean,
and Trubisky can run. And if we've seen young quarterbacks that aren't like amazing passers, what's been the formula for them to have success in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's their feet.
Their problem is just matchup oriented because getting through LA or New Orleans is not a good look for them.
Sure, but again, that was not an insane case to be made for the Bears. So,
I'm saying it's less than 5%, but
and then on top of that, I mean, you still have Rodgers out there, and so when you factor that into the equation, like, okay, we've come up with at least 7 or 8 teams in the NFC that can truly make the Super Bowl, and then when you go to the AFC, okay, I can make a case for obviously the Pats, I can make a case for the Chiefs. I think right now you can make a case for the Steelers.
Think about making a case for the Texans.
I would say I think you definitely can make a case for the Chargers, and then I think you can start to make a case for the Texans.
There's life there. They've won a bunch of games in a row. They're good on defense. And
the point being, we just named essentially a third of the league that has a chance to win the title. Why is college football not exciting right now?
Because we all know who's going to win the title. We're literally cracking jokes about – there's literally an argument to be made for a team like Georgia, except Georgia's going to lose to Alabama, so take them out. Let's say, I don't know, pick a team that could be in the 4 or 5. Are you better off 4th getting smoked by Alabama, or are you better off 5th going to one of the Access Bowls and winning?
So your argument would be – essentially Michigan or like Oklahoma.
Yeah. Or, if let's say LSU got to 10-2 and the way things fell, they were 4 or 5. I think they're better off going to the Sugar Bowl and playing somebody else and having a competitive game and all that stuff than go get smoked by Alabama and you're just forgotten.
I guess the only question I'd ask, and it's very semantics, is what's the revenue difference if I go to the playoff?
Yeah, I mean, there's more money, but I just mean from from
a football perspective, I think I probably agree with you.
There's literally
it's why if I'm UCF this year, I'm not banging the drum of I should be in the playoff. No. Because I don't want to get into the playoff and then get beat by 5 scores by Alabama like everyone. And then what I think is going to happen is I don't think UCF is I didn't think they deserved it last year, and I really don't think they deserve it this year. But my argument would be they were better last year. It turns out when they had more pros on their defense that their defense was better, and they had more pros last year. So, but I don't think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt when they get smoked by 35 or more against Alabama. They're not going to get the benefit of the doubt that every other team that gets smoked by 35 and plays in a Power 5 conference does.
Well, look, okay, does that make it even possible for a group of 5 to ever get in this thing, man? Ever?
I don't think so.
No, not at 4 teams. Not at 4 teams.
But
It's never going to happen.
They'd have to literally stack their schedule.
That was,
and that's almost impossible.
Yeah, and you can't get anybody to schedule you.
Yeah.
I mean, if UCF
my
calls,
bigger deal is when we create this narrative that as long as you beat a Power 5 team, that's a better win. Like, I think beating UCF is a bigger deal than beating Arkansas.
Of course.
Personally.
Yeah. It's a better program. It's a better
it's-
team. They have more talent.
And that's the whole thing. Like when people do the whole Washington State schedule someone, it's like, well, they're going to play 9 conference games. And I've watched the Pac-12. There's no one in the Pac-12 that just straight up stinks. Now, there's no elite team in the Pac-12. There's no team that's even as good as Notre Dame probably in the Pac-12. But there's no team that sucks right now in the Pac-12.
So
Like even Arizona, who we were making the Sumlin jokes at the start of the year, like they're competent again.
So what do you like for the playoff to shake out? How's it gonna finish? Who's in?
I mean, to me, I do think we're actually going to get. We'll get 3 undefeated teams. I think it's going to be Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame. The problem with the whole Michigan thing is the argument for Ohio State beating Michigan right now is entirely emotional because there's nothing football-wise that says Ohio State's going to beat Michigan this year.
No. Michigan's playing better.
But it's an emotional argument of, well, they're going to have the game at home and Harbaugh can't beat Urban Meyer. I just know, man, week in, week out. I told y'all this about a month ago. I've seen this Urban Meyer look before, and it gets worse and worse every week. God, I am so pissed that Nebraska sucks because if they could have pulled that off, I had my get well soon Coach Meyer tweet ready to go.
Small wins, right, Joe?
God, I had it ready. Like, just finger on the trigger. Like, oh, God, if only they could have pulled it off.
All right, last thing. So swinging back to the beginning, I don't think I even asked you this. What is Memphis' ceiling as a basketball team? I know it doesn't matter when they sign whatever and all the momentum's pointing forward, but, I mean, is this actually a good college basketball team?
This year, or are you saying
no,
like
now.
as it what's their program ceiling?
No.
They're a team that has some talent, but they have very young guards. And so typically in college basketball, when you're a point guard and you're 2 and 3, your first 3 guards are freshmen. It's typically not a great recipe. They played Tennessee Tech. They looked pretty good in the first half, and then in the second half they kind of sleptwalk. They'll play LSU next in Baton Rouge. I would think they're probably going to be like a 6-7 point underdog there. They'll probably lose that. To me, their ceiling is they get the conference tournament at home, and they backdoor their way into the NCAA tournament. That's their absolute ceiling.
Is the league
I think
good?
I just think right now this feels like an Andy Kennedy typical team, like where they're going to be kind of bubbly-ish, but because they're not good enough, they're going to lose the games that would have put them in the tournament, and they're going to be kind of NITE.
Okay, fair enough. Who's on the show today?
Well, today we're discussing the Grizzlies' big win over the Nuggets last night. So the good news is I've fallen in love with this Grizzlies team, not because I'm a tremendous homer, but because any team that can lose to the Suns with a fourth quarter double-digit lead and beat the 10-1 Denver Nuggets in the same week, that's my kind of team.
Someone I know said Memphis was going to be a playoff team, and I was one of the few people that said it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because they're going to be a playoff team.
Uh-huh. I think I know who that person is.
Yep.
Have a good day, Jeff.
It's Parham.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Talk soon, bud.
Our thanks to Jeffrey Wright. This podcast is also brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. When you call OUB, you speak directly with the live person. all without having to press 10 buttons and without a 5-minute wait. OUB is offering 1-year CDs at 1.75% annual percentage yield, 3-year triple option CDs paying 2.01% APY. With the 3-year term, customers can deposit once during the term, withdraw once during the term, and or bump the rate if OUB's 3-year rate rises. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. And we're brought to you by Megan Phillips with LAH Real Estate. She's the person to call for all your real estate needs in the Birmingham, Alabama area. With almost a decade of experience, Megan's knowledge and expertise can help you buy or sell your home today. So visit her website, meganmphillips.com. That's MEAGANM Phillips.com. Or call Megan at 205-602-7929. Don't forget, as we talked about, Ole Miss basketball gets started this weekend. Ole Miss and Western Michigan. It's Military Appreciation Day at Tad Smith. Don't forget, if you want to get seasoned, not Tad Smith, the Pavilion. It's not at Tad Smith. Not at Tad Smith. It's at the Pavilion. It's at the Pavilion.
See, we talked to Andy, and now it's all about Tad Smith.
It's like nostalgic, yeah. You can get season tickets on the Rebel Flex Pass, $199. That gets you tickets to all 16 Ole Miss men's games at OleMissTix.com. You can also, while you're on OleMissTix.com, that's OleMissTix.com. You can get women's basketball season tickets for just $50.
Yeah, you see that hole? It's the sky.
David, come here. You see that blue spot up there?
Yeah.
David's like, yeah. That's the sky.
Yeah.
That's great.
That and the coughing fits because it's just asbestos. Always good for a laugh. No doubt about that. So again, thanks to Jeffrey as always and Andy for giving us his time today on the show. A lot covered. So it was.
Yeah, and I thought some of his thoughts on the amateur model and that stuff is really interesting.
That's a good thought.
The bottom line is there's got to be a way to fix some of it. There has to be a way to bring some intelligent people to the table and come up with some solutions that at least reduce the amount of black market stuff that's happening. Because I don't know about you, but the black market stuff, when you find out all this money under the table, and I know it goes on, but when you see the numbers and stuff, it does feel a little crummy. I'm not bothered by it, but it feels crummy. There's no reason it can't be above the table, is my point.
I'll be honest, sometimes I'm shocked the numbers are as low as they are.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm going to be totally honest here. At the risk of never getting to guest host another show in Memphis again, I'm shocked that the numbers on James Wiseman are as small as they are.
Yeah.
We're talking about first pick in the NBA draft kind of a player.
Yeah.
$4,000 a month? That's it?
Done.
That's all? I mean, surely there's a down payment somewhere, right?
Yeah.
$4,000 a month?
Yeah, I know.
Sign me up.
Come hang out with us tonight. Again, 5:30 for that one. Hope you enjoyed the week of podcasts. We've got a soft verbal presented by Dead Soxy coming your way today. We got a greatest pod in the South that's already up from yesterday.
I just need to link it and stuff.
Okay, but it's there. It's on iTunes and different things.
And we're taping a beer garden this afternoon with Ryan Brown just before I leave to go to Funky's. So
it'll be in the morning.
We'll throw that up in the morning. So lots of stuff.
Plenty of podcasts, whether you're headed to College Station or Oxford for basketball or just driving around and working out. Appreciate all of you. We'll talk to you soon.